Welcome back. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Sammy, how you doing
Like you're in
today?
a good mood. Good, good.
Oh, I'm
Welcome
feeling
back,
great. Every
everyone.
time I get to see you, my man, we get to do this. It's always such a mood uplifter, you
Yeah,
know?
it is. It's my pleasure. Obviously. Also to those of you on the other side of the screen, welcome back to the Arcane Archive.
We're back,
We are
baby.
doing another one of our wonderful delving into the personal issues of people on the internet. We're doing another episode of Cautionary
It's
Chronicles.
Cautionary
We're
Chronicles.
getting into it. We got a good smattering of stories today. Again, we've been on a bit of a tear of not too horrifyingly cringy, morally apprehensible stories.
Yes,
It's
try
been
to be
good
a little bit
for
more lighthearted, you
it's been
know?
good for my mental health.
Try to keep it kind
Um,
of, chiller, like
you
a
know, I
chiller
think
vibe, bro.
I think it's more similar to what people might actually deal with more often, more commonly, because not everything is, this whole blown out horror story that needs to go on Reddit, but these ones could be. Um, from what I've read today, we have a good mix of issues, and hopefully we can offer some solutions, or
Some
just
insight, just shoot the shit.
revel in the sympathies of it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes all you need is like a person that you're just going like, "Yo, that sucked, bro. I'm sorry. I
Hmm.
sympathize. I feel you." Sometimes that's all you need, you know?
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't
sometimes
always
all we
need
need is
solutions, you
an
know?
a approving pat on the back.
Yeah, sometimes all you just need is a genuine human connection, you know?
Yeah.
You don't always need solutions to every issue right
Or
off the bat. You
yeah,
just need to be like,
sometimes
"Yo, we feel you, man. You're not
sometimes you just need to
alone."
listen to some genuine, and like that
Yeah.
helps. But as always, thank you for tuning in today. Please don't hesitate to leave comments down below, maybe telling us some of your own stories or responding to kind of how we go through these today. If you'd like to, please subscribe. We'd love to have more people along for the journey. I know me and Adam have talked about getting into recording some Baldur's Gate once we figure out the technical aspect of it. We've both played
Yeah.
quite a lot, so we're excited to try that out now that it's crossplay. But without further ado, I think I'll get right into the beginning of our stories for today.
Go ahead and take us away,
Um,
Sammy.
I have a fun one to start, something that I feel a bit of a personal connection to. It's about a DM that writes too much.
Yeah, and I got
But
that.
this is a story by Ton Coman on Reddit. The world's so interconnected, you get to stand there and listen to NPCs discuss my other campaign for 2 hours.
Punkaman! We're here for you, buddy.
Yes, this is, yep, I feel for you immensely in this scenario. I'll preface by saying that this DM was not a bad DM. 95% of the time, he was absolutely amazing. Played with the guy for years, love him. The other 5%, well, here it is. So when the DM initially formed his D&D server, he thought he'd run like 3 campaigns in the same setting, and things happening in one game could affect another. This sounded good on paper. In practice, it sucked major balls like half the time. The DM got into one of his writing frenzies and would write himself into some corner or plot cul-de-sac. I love plot cul-de-sac.
That's
That's
a
a
good one.
great.
It is a really vivid image. It translates perfectly, in my opinion.
Oh,
You
definitely.
got nowhere else to go. You're just here now, you
You're
know?
stuck in a cul-de-sac. The minor issues with this were getting introduced to some awesome boss, only to discover they'd been dealt with in another campaign and weren't really our problem. Which, okay, I guess.
I
Like,
mean,
feels a bit disappointing to go on a side quest to accidentally unleash a son of Asmodeus, only to discover that he was the problem of some other party halfway across the world, and we can just get back to what we were doing. But the worst instance of this was the party. This thing was set up for months. When we arrived at a large city, some big crime syndicate meeting was about to take place. And wouldn't you know it, one of our PCs was the son of a crime boss. But we needed to prove ourselves first. So to build up reputation, we went on a quest to claim a bounty on the heads of 2 baddies. The GM got into one of his writing frenzies, so our quick and easy bounty hunt ended up becoming months of treading jungle, uncovering UNT conspiracies, signing deals with sea monsters, rescuing fey children, then discovering these 2 small-time thugs actually signed deals with devils and were now monsters. And now we had beef with their patrons. And all throughout, we had to get back to the city to that very important crime meeting party thing.
Hmm.
I love it because they
This
made it sound
this
like that crime meeting party thing was happening fairly
I
quickly.
was going to say, like, yeah,
But you know, you can just write it off.
this is classic. Honestly, this feels super classic D&D to me, where yeah, like
Oh, like it,
you had a very small, very specific objective that just inadvertently snowballs into a a truly epic like Odyssey quest of epic proportions, and you're just like, weren't we just supposed to like go like pick up some apples or something and bring them back to the old lady at the cart? Like, what happened?
yeah, it's a tough one because it's not the worst thing,
No, I mean,
but it's
again, and
annoying.
I will say too right off the bat, like the aspect of having, a more like a live world with multiple campaigns happening and having maybe effects to like, I don't think that's a terrible concept in theory, of course, and like I think it makes sense in terms of like, yeah, you unleashed, a devil's son, and but that was another party's problem to have to contend with. I don't think that's a bad thing, so long as that also happens to you guys too, where it's like, hey, yeah, they released like an ancient eldritch horror that, ended up you guys having to deal with it then. It's like, it's a cyclical kind of thing where everybody kind of provides. But maybe that didn't really happen, I guess. Anyway, sorry, continue, please.
No problem. When we did, it was set up once more. We proved ourselves, and we were so important that we got hired as guards to protect the bigwigs, the most influential criminals of the continent. And it turns out the captain of the city guard, my OC's love interest, is the son of one of the crime lords and is there at the party, in on everything. The tension is sky high. We assemble at the meeting hall as bigwig after bigwig show up, each with a retinue,
Retinue, yep, character
retinue, character
art.
art descriptions of how imposing they are. And then, for 2 hours, they discuss some sort of drug deal gone horribly wrong, causing a calamity in a city across the continent. For 2 hours, we stand there, listening to NPCs we just met discuss the implication of another campaign's party's actions, one that contained 2 out of the 6 of the players at this table. We have no input or effect on the decisions being made. We're just guards after all. The DM does voices at himself for 2 hours as I zone out.
Yeah, see that's definitely a problem. You can't. I mean that would suck in any capacity. Like whether it's talking about other things in a different campaign or if it's just the GM literally playing with themselves for 2 hours.
Hey, whoa, whoa.
Uh, phrasing.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Yeah. Um, yeah, this is a tough one for me. Um, so they listen to it for 2 hours as the criminals then decide to, I don't know, do more crime or whatever. Suddenly assassins break in and we beat them
Oh.
up and chase them down. To add insult to injury, the leader of the assassins duels the captain of the guard in a circle of fire we can't enter, so we're just mopping up the extras.
Uh,
As cleanup duty ends, we head back and are informed that one, we did a good job, here's some gold. Two, we have no further business with the syndicate as that whole thing is another campaign's problem. Three, that assassin guy is a third campaign's problem, so we don't really need to follow up on that either. So what the fuck was I just doing here? What was the point? I ended that session furious. What was all the lead up for? What did we even accomplish? What did I, not playing in another campaign, benefit from all that lore? It was perhaps the single most infuriating session of my life. Now, things like this, I understand the want of a DM to try to do stuff like this. I truly do. Um, because it sounds cool. It sounds cool because you're like, oh, look at all the cool stuff we can do, or find out, or
all of the
whatever.
stuff that's happening from other players, in decisions and choices and actions. And here's the thing, they're not wrong. Yeah, it is cool. I'm gonna be honest with you, Sammy. this just seems kind of like a pretty textbook case of he favors the other two campaigns over this one. Like I don't like it seems like maybe it's at least it's to me from reading this, it feels like the GM doesn't really have any real idea of what to do with this third party. It seems like he's giving the vast majority of like inspiration, those creative juices to the other two campaigns and parties. And this third one, maybe he bit off more than he could chew. Maybe he was just doing this because like there was a shit ton of people who all wanted to play, and he didn't want to just say no like a fucking man. So he was like, all right, hey, yeah, we'll split up into three separate parties in this one world, and we'll all have different things, but interconnected points and stuff. Because it's like, again, yeah, you released like, a devil's son, and then he gives that to the other party. You present an assassin character, he gives that to the other party. You present a criminal syndicate, and he gives it to, say it with me, the other party. I'll be honest, it kind of seems like he's just favoring that other party. Because again, yes, it is definitely very cool to have interconnected things of like, yeah, wow, my actions maybe in that. Because what I don't understand though is like, why do they don't just play if they have the time, three separate campaigns or two separate campaigns? You have two separate characters or whatever, and then the actions you do there, da 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 da, so on and so forth. You could have separate parties for that too. If the GM wants to play more, the players can't. That's great. But you definitely do have to give content to both parties and
Yeah.
have them being affected and having consequences, but it seems like he's kind of just picking and choosing like his favorites. Yeah, is what it looks like, quite frankly. Um, which that definitely does suck. I 100% feel for this person, as I think I would probably be pretty furious as well. We're just like, I mean, OP, I would ask, did you ask him at all? Like, hey, what are we gonna get anything cool like that? Like you keep introducing all these interesting points and all these interesting like enemies and nemesis and hooks, but you're always saying like, well, that's for the other party. So what are we getting? Are we getting anything? Are those parties doing things that then will get like?
Yeah, I'd like something at all, actually. That's the issue. It's one of those things where it's tough because I can see where this DM is coming from, right? Because
Yeah,
in writing this all down,
it's a cool
it
concept.
sounds really cool. But
And
in practice, it's not really.
well, it depends on the balancing. Like again, if you like the issue comes and arises where you, like I said, you have to provide content pretty equally at least, or pretty balanced to all campaigns. I mean, hell, I'd say it'd be hard enough with just two campaigns, let alone, adding a third and stuff. Like, I definitely think that it's definitely not impossible, I think, to do. I think it could be really cool, but I think you also would need to have the right people for it. And the GM does very deliberately and specifically have to provide content equally for both parties. If you're gonna build off of each other, then it has to be building off. You can't just use one party as a means of providing content for the other party like that.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not. The issue is you're writing yourself into a corner where it's like on paper this all sounds great, but the people that are actually sitting through this, what do they get out of it?
I mean, clearly
Because
here, yeah,
like as a DM, you don't have to have a conversation that lasts 2 hours with yourself. You
I
don't.
mean, yeah, that in general in any context or situation is just
There's just no
horrible.
reason. It's not that you could just, have a couple lines and then you cut to
You cut to the
the DM.
assassins coming in,
Well, you have the DM explain what was said.
Yeah,
Explain
you
what was.
summarize the
Yeah,
proceedings and the events. You
that's it.
give, yeah,
That's all you
you
have to do, and then
a
you're
little bit of
done.
role play, and then you're just like, and they continue to kind of like discuss matters of business and import, referencing these moments here, and then the assassins burst through the windows. Everybody roll initiative. Like yeah, like whether there's one, two, or three campaigns, the GM talking to themselves for 2 hours is egregious, no matter how many campaigns are involved. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, it just it seems like he maybe has. It didn't seem like he had anything for this party. Is really what it looked like. Like he apparently got like a shit ton of inspiration, right? Giving them the whole Yuan T conspiracy, all that shit, all that stuff, and then the well ran dry for this campaign, I guess. And he was like, "Well, we're gonna listen to me talk 2 hours about events that the other two campaigns did, and we're gonna give the other two campaigns all this stuff." And I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Like you can absolutely do this though. Like this, the biggest issue is that this isn't actually even a hugely difficult concept to execute
Yeah.
in practice, like it literally it like hell, you know obviously like Critical Role has done it before where they've done like one shots or just like slight side stories with other characters in the same exact world of Exandria in similar time periods in the same time period, right? And the world is big and vast. Like, yeah, you can have other people doing certain things and not have any of their actions affect anybody else, but if you do, it can be cool and you can reference that. I think, it's a great thing to do. I think probably works best if you can use, the same people for the same game for both of the games, right? They have different characters, and that way at least everybody's still technically involved, and they can also get like the references that you'll make in the other campaign about the other campaign, right? Where it's like, oh, hey, everybody knows that because you guys did that, and you recognize what that is. But even if it's two separate parties, right? Completely different people in each party, you know, uh, it's still possible to do to eventually maybe bring them together for like a really cool big
What's happening in my
thing.
Tuesday game right now? We have
Hey,
two whole parties of people, so each of us have two characters in the final arc. Some of us have like three or four characters that exist, but never were those things running at the same time. Like
yeah.
it was like, okay, we're gonna
I'm
run
trying
this arc from these characters,
to.
and then we'll run this arc for these, and it's like
Oh,
it's
that's
not
it.
happening at the same time. You're yeah, it may affect it down the road, but like this set of say 10 sessions isn't going to affect the other 10 sessions. It's just going to be maybe somewhere down the line the choices matter. It's not at this exact same time because that is insane and crazy to run and very difficult to keep track of as a DM. Like I'll give you credit where credit's due. Like if you're really doing this and it's working and like the stories are good, that's great. But like there's definitely some effort that needs to be put into like, not waste your
Oh,
players' time for 2 hours.
100%. I was gonna say there's a YouTube channel called World of IO who I've seen actually execute this kind of thing very well. Like they run like multitude of different like campaigns with different players in the same world. Hell, even in like the same like city, but in like different districts or parts of the city, right? And at moments, he will bring the two parties who have separate narratives and things going on, but there are still a lot of like overarching plots and enemies that kind of bring them all together, right? And they did it very well. So I mean, if you want to see like kind of execution of that I thought was actually very well done, check out like World of Io. I thought that the GM did very well in regards to that. Um, but I mean, that in essence, I think that's probably about all we really have to say about this. Like, it's just, I think this really is just a rather poor reflection on the GM who just is either one, playing favorites with the different parties slash campaigns. Two is just like creatively just dry and empty for this particular campaign and didn't know what else to do, at least for this session, maybe. Or three, both, maybe. Maybe it's both. Maybe he doesn't like certain people in this campaign and so doesn't really feel like giving them shit and wants to focus on the others. Again, who knows? But it is definitely a poor reflection of the GM. I don't know if this is like his first time trying this, which could absolutely, that's fair. If it's your first time trying to enact something this grand, it definitely is going to have some growing pains.
That's definitely true.
But hey, overall, I guess OP, like if you did enjoy all of the other content that he seemingly gave you, because you said you guys got a lot of shit going after those two thugs before, apparently. Like y'all got like a whole Yuan T conspiracy, signing deals with sea monsters, rescuing fake children. Like you guys
Like
apparently got a lot.
if it's still fun, like
Yeah,
it's just taught you DM. Like I think
exactly.
the
Just
DM just
just just have a conversation about
needs to maybe
focusing up,
pare
tighten the
pare some of it
screws.
down a little bit
Tighten,
because like
yeah.
again the idea of giving you guys that information is not a bad one. It's just the execution is rough. And like
Yeah.
not giving you guys any connection to it is the rough bit. Because like so, you know, yeah, maybe there's another party that's gonna like deal with this syndicate more so. Maybe there's another one of the parties has the syndicate is like they have more connection or like they're maybe working directly to take it down, right? So maybe in his eyes it's like, well, you don't have to worry about that because it's not going to exist anymore. But those people still exist. You have connections now to whether it was those bosses, the patrons you have beef with, the captain of the guard that your character is interested in. Like, okay, well, if that syndicate's being dismantled, like, doesn't that town kind of need all the help it can get? Okay, well, you know the captain of the guard. What can you guys do while you're there? Even if it's separate from that syndicate specifically. Well, those patrons don't give a shit about crime syndicate. They're gonna find other people and send them after you. Because this is now about vengeance.
Yeah.
It's about ruining your shit.
Yeah.
So the game that they were playing got cut short and is over. And they want replacement pieces. Like, there's so many options on how
I mean,
you could still
literally,
tie bits of this story to the party and
like,
not make it about the syndicate. If because I
yeah,
can see it, I can see it in my head that this guy has these grandiose plans
it's all
for all three
there.
of these games. But, I'm hoping it somewhere down the line the things that the other parties are doing end up in your lap as well.
That's yeah, like that's
But I'm not
again the
sure,
thing. It's like if the things you're doing and the GM is giving them shit from your game, then he'll have to give you shit from theirs. I mean, hell, or do what again, like World of Io did. Like you guys saw that assassin that was attacking your love interest. If they're involved with the other party too, that's a great time to bring the two parties together for a crossover event, right? Everybody loves crossover events. I don't always love crossover events personally. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. Crossover events I think are usually pretty cheesy, fucking annoying kind of shit. But sometimes they can do them really well if you do them right. And that would be a perfect moment, right? He tried to kill your love interest. Well, you have a personal vendetta against him now and want to maybe like, track him down. You and the other party come together and you like head into maybe like an assassin den or something full of some monsters, enemies, whatever the fuck, a mega dungeon, right? You guys tackle a mega dungeon together and handle like a raid boss style kind of combat or something, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
dude, even like when you dismantle a crime family or a syndicate like that, where do all the dregs go?
well, somebody always tries to replace them. Yo,
Okay,
look at the
so
look at the
you
new
get enough,
penguin show, you know?
you get enough of those entry level guys together, they'd form a formidable, if not worrisome, party of outlaws. You now have a small town next door that's been completely ransacked and taken over by
Yup.
these ex syndicate members.
Yup.
You have now three of the major trade roads out of this large city you're in are fucked because every time someone sends a caravan out, they're getting raided and burned to the ground
Yep.
by these basically, whether it's actually drunk or power drunk people who don't have a place to belong to anymore are just lashing out indiscriminately for as much as they can grab.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be that grandiose, but it gives you guys a connection and also allows you to stay in the area and possibly find more stories. And that's the part that I don't understand. Is like it doesn't all have to be this. Some
Agreed.
of it can be here.
It can be more isolated, it
Yeah.
can be more singular. But I think now that's probably about all we've got
Yeah.
for that one. Well, I mean, to be fair, no, we could probably go on like this ad infinitum because again, with this kind of subject, again, the options are just about endless for what you could do. But we'll go ahead, we'll cut it there for now, and we'll move on to the next story of the day that we have for you. Since we got a few to still talk about, we might go off on tangents on all of them as we like to do. So that being the case, the next one we've got for you today is titled "Cheating Leads to Actual Arrest." by same big 3677. So, recently I started a campaign of D&D 5th edition, which, while far from being my preferred system, has the big advantage of being quite known. This is true. The group consisted of four people: rogue, druid slash barbarian, paladin slash fighter, and a wizard. And since last week three, as wizard dropped out in a spectacular way. All right. So the group was a bunch of players who I had played with in the past, and several groups with Rogue and Paladin being people I actually see outside of TTRPGs. Wizard is a former GM who was initially happy just to play, but had a tendency to rules lawyer a bit too often for my taste and had voiced a few times I wasn't strict enough, but nothing particularly dramatic. Until last week. So, the players were infiltrating a cult, and through some investigation, they found out the cult leader was not a greater demon, but was in fact a bard running a scam. Ah, I love that. That is a beautiful, beautiful hook. And using the cultists as magical batteries. Terribly original of me, I know. I mean, I don't really think it's that, I don't really think it's that common. Like, I haven't heard like a have you heard a plethora of instances where a bard has pretended to be a greater demon, inciting an evil cult in order to suck them dry of vital essence?
No.
I mean, hey, OP, that seems pretty decent to me.
I
Anywho,
like the idea of using a bard for that.
that's what I'm saying. The fact that you're using a bard, an evil bard, like for evil purposes at all, like that's not a super common thing a lot of the time. Which I love that aspect and concept. I've made evil bards myself, and I'm like I would love to use them. But anywho, so the group gathers and decides to confront the leader at a black mass and try to convince the cult to turn on their leader, but roll terribly, and suddenly they are fighting for their lives as the cultists summon their leader, who is still dangerous. You said leader a lot in that sentence, OP. The fight is not going their way, as there are just too many combatants, and the second in command is wreaking havoc. The cult leader appears as a demon, and then the fight would probably be a TPK, aka capture. The fight seems lost when the paladin finally casts Zone of Truth on the cult leader. I throw a saving throw, and he rolls a 3, so he is forced to be truthful. Then Paladin action surges to command him to confess. I throw a nat 1 so you can guess what happens next. This convinces a significant part of the cultists to turn against their master, and after a few rounds, the combat is over. Everyone's happy, and we decide to take a little smoking break. I assume you guys are then playing the OG 5th edition rules then, because technically, I believe in the new 5.5, Action Surge does not allow you to cast spells twice anymore in a round. But I definitely love this combo. It's a great one, to be sure, honestly. Though I guess technically speaking, if you would cast command, he and told him to confess, he probably would just have to confess anyway, even without the Zone of Truth, to be fair. Because that's kind of what a confession is, confessing the truth. Um, but either way, still works, and I'm not mad at it at all. Love the combo. Everyone except Wizard, who was looking quite angry as this all conspired, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Now, as the group is outside chatting and smoking, he bursts out holding Paladin's player sheet. You cheated! He basically yells and comes to me to show that Zone of Truth was, in fact, not prepared. Dun dun dun.
Um,
And OP actually has that written out, the dun 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 part. So kudos to you, OP. I'm a fan of that as well. Paladin basically admits to it all, but tells that he scrapped another spell and only thought of the option in the midst of the unexpected fight. The rest of the players boo a little, but it's clear that we take this pretty lightly, as we all kind of really liked it, actually. Well, Wizard did not, and demands that I ban Paladin on the spot. I refuse and tell him that I don't think it's really that big of a deal, as I tell him the chance of the cult leader actually failing either of those saves was incredibly small. Literally, he had to roll a 3 or lower. Wizard still, however, gets angrier and angrier, beginning to scream at this point. And I tell him to tone it down as I do not want noise complaints from my neighbors. But he instead gets even madder and ends up punching me for not punishing Paladin for quote unquote cheating. Well, you can guess that spoils the mood considerably, and we tell him to leave, which he then proceeds to refuse, becoming even more aggressive and screaming even louder as we desperately try to keep him from hurting us without us hurting him. And that's when the door finally rings as the police have been called to check up as the noise is waking up my apartment block. We tell what is happening, but Wizard, by this point, is completely off the rails and tries to push a police officer and is taken into custody for assaulting such officer and still refuses to cooperate, so is carried out screaming. TLDR, some light cheating caused another player to be arrested. End post. Now, really quick, I just want to say I was from the initial title of this story, I was not expecting this ending. I thought from the title it was like, oh yeah, this person, whoever was the cheater, was the one who was going to get arrested for like freaking out, flipping out from being called out. Well, imagine
No.
my delightful surprise where the person who was arrested was not the actual cheater themselves, but was the person who was accusing someone of cheating. Oh, that is a beautiful thing. Now, Samuel, what do you make of this story?
I mean, I've never had the urge to assault someone over a D&D game.
Hey, sometimes people just get really, really overly
I mean, yeah,
passionate about their elves
it's
and their dragons and their
yeah,
dwarves and their
sure.
magic and their wizards, you know. You
Wizard.
know, my wizard's a level 13 evocation specialist, okay? I've had him for like 5 years now. Like, it gets real passion, man. And that's why we love this game, right? You get
Uh-huh.
it evokes those feelings inside of you. It makes you feel something, you know?
Yeah, just what I was thinking. Maybe don't though, would be
I
my
mean, or at
thought.
the very least, maybe don't punch your
Well, I
GM
mean, like
who wasn't even the cheater, who
the
was literally
funny
just like, yo,
the
bro, it's
funny thing is like this is a like easy mistake to make, whatever. You're telling me that you are going to willingly like it's not like they called the police on him.
no, they didn't. Other people did
Other
because he
people
was
did.
because he was getting apparently so
Belligerent.
hysterical and belligerent that it required other people to call on them to check on them. Like, here's the thing, right? Okay. Me and Samuel, as his title right there will tell you, he and I are both probably what you consider power gaming rules lawyers, right? We both love to power game. We are both
You're not a rules lawyer.
I can be. I
You have your
absolutely
very own specific interpretation of the rules that we argue on all the time, and it's not malicious, it's not cheaty. It's just you like to look at things a little bit more fluidly than I do, which is fine. But
true.
we do disagree all the time when it
But
comes to
true,
rules.
it's true. But many people would disagree with you in that, there are also, however, many things that you and I do just staunchly agree on, as these are just baseline like rules of things. I absolutely can be more flexible, but I 100% am like, well, there are, just because that's the core of the game, right? There are certain concepts or aspects or mechanics that are just core to the game to make it an actual game instead of just, 4 to 6 people all sitting in a circle, doing the no yaha no yaha no yaha game. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
we definitely tend to just kind of like figure it out as opposed to
yeah,
arguing too much.
like it's it is usually all. But with that being the case, there is absolutely still a point where it's like in this particular situation, right? The paladin had not technically, quote unquote, prepared zone of truth. However, during that combat, again, I'm not sure. Again, like, here's the thing: that was a really clutch, badass play. to the GM's point as well, it was not a guaranteed thing to work or succeed by any means. In fact, it was a highly likely it was gonna fail regardless. Uh, and I would say even before, so if the paladin has like let's say, 7 spells prepared that day, right, that he can cast, but he's only really utilized 2 to 3 of those spells. He hasn't even brought up the fact that he prepared any of the other ones at all. He hasn't casted them. He hasn't used them. I
That's the other
pers
thing. Like, what are you really losing? You're not
that
losing
that
anything.
exactly. My point being is like by all accounts, I don't see a problem with him basically being like, I haven't used any of these other spells this whole time, so effectively they don't actually exist, right? Effectively, one could say he hasn't even actually prepared them because he hasn't actually even used them or is
Look,
planning on using them.
look, man. You can't tell anyone except for the people here, obviously. But I totally had that happen in Curse of Strahd, where I did not prepare Water Walk, but I had it prepared.
I mean, and
we
that's
we got to the encounter. We had fought like 2 encounters, and it was like you really can't get through here unless you can fly or you have a way to traverse this horrible muddy thing you sink into. And I looked at my spell sheet and I went, I haven't used like 3 of these, and he doesn't even know what my sheet looks like. And I just took one of them off and I put Water Walk on.
look.
I was like, look, if I had known where we were going, and most likely I would have prepared it if I had just been paying attention. Hey, guess what? Did that hurt anyone? No.
No. In
Also,
fact,
was it really cool, and it allowed us to actually have a really fun yet still difficult fight, but fun fight using Water
yes.
Walk? Yes.
Yes. I mean, that's again, this is what we are talking about in regards to the rules, especially for GMs, right? Is the goal of the game predominantly is to have fun, right? It's not hurting anybody. It's not like in my opinion, this particular thing is barely cheating, right? You have spells that are deliberately designed for certain scenarios and situations and things. And it can be very annoying at times where it's like, oh hey, you have like a limited amount of spells to prepare. That obviously keeps you from being too overpowered and OP for sure. But it is also the case that, okay, well, if you have certain spells that you prepared, you're not fucking using them today. You're not fucking using any of these spells, and they're becoming useless. But you do have a particular spell that could be really helpful and effective. Fuck it, use that spell. Guess what, though? That spell is now locked in for that day. Once you use that spell, it's locked in. You can't just say I don't have it anymore. But if there's just a spell that's just sitting off in the fucking ether collecting dust, it's contributing nothing, doing nothing, and there just so happens to be another spell that could be perfectly applicable for this situation, just just let them switch it out. It's really
Don't
not
I
that big a
I would say
deal.
this, as a player, don't make a habit of it, but as a DM
Sure, not
also don't like,
intentionally.
no, like you get like one good one, I think, every 10 sessions or so, where it's like, fuck, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't prepare my spells this morning, like,
Yeah.
and you can
Or
even ask
or
the
you
DM
know,
and be like, "Hey, dude,
yeah, like
like I'm
what
being completely
would
honest
my
here.
character have known that we were going to this place or this
You know,
whatever? Because again, it's one thing, right? If it's like, okay, something maybe popped out at you out of nowhere, right? And then you didn't have a certain spell prepared or whatever, and it's like,
it's
okay.
like, okay, so I'm a wizard. I have Scorching Ray and I have Water Walk, and we're gonna go fight. We're gonna go sail on the ocean. I forgot to prepare my spells that morning. Ugh.
But or
My
again,
wizard, like like I would have known.
I
Like
the
I would have.
player forgot.
Well,
But my
but it's like it's
character,
pretty common knowledge that like water creatures probably would just kind of just get rid of fire, and
I mean, or at
water walk
least maybe
sounds
take
like,
less damage,
yeah, but
maybe.
like you can't use it in the water, and like water walk is like a
I mean, it's
really like
magic.
kind of no brainer spell to take with you on a ship voyage just in case. And so like for
Or
me,
water breathing, either one.
water breathing or
Like
like taking
any water
what slow
controlling.
taking slow fall if you're going to go on an airship mission.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain spells that are they're
Yeah.
very specific utility. You can't use them all the time. You
Yeah.
forget. Um
Because they're just not
that's
nearly as applicable. But
it's like, man, fuck it, whatever.
just
Like,
just give him a moment to have some cool shit that could really be
Yeah.
badass. You know what I mean?
And
It's
especially for someone like a paladin who rarely actually use their spells and more accurately
I mean,
normally
zone of truth of all things.
just use them to smite. So like fucking some truth. Don't be me. Don't just have ceremony prepared because that's the only spell I always have prepared as a paladin. Um, I don't want to hear it, Adam. Leave it
Why?
alone. It's a great spell,
It
and
is
I
a
don't.
terrible spell, Sam. The only
No,
good thing about it is the marriage one, and only if you technically marry
I'm
every
sorry.
single person in the party at the same
No, it's
time,
not
right
about that.
before, or like at least with a couple days of advance of fighting like the big bad evil guy or a boss, and then you kill each other, and then you revivify each other, and then you do it again. That's the only good thing about that spell,
You
Sam.
know, I
Okay.
just
Everything else
like
sucks, bud. It's terrible. It's a terrible spell, except for
it's
that one
so
thing, which
good.
is awesome and amazing. Except for marrying each other, then killing each other,
Atonement,
then reviving each other, and then doing it.
atonement's great.
Nope, terrible.
Blessing water is
It's
great.
horrible. You don't even need to. You don't even need the spell for that. You can just do that as a paladin
coming
or a
coming
cleric.
of coming of age
No
is
one gives a
no,
shit
you
about
can't.
children. Don't
No,
survive long enough, Sam, in
ceremony
any campaign. You know this.
ceremony is the only spell that lets you make holy water.
No,
Coming
no,
of
you
age
can
is
just do that. You can
great.
just do that as a paladin
That's
or a
not a
cleric.
thing. It's not a
I'm
thing in the
pretty sure.
class. It's not. There's nothing in the
Uh,
class that says anything about that except for this fucking spell.
Pretty
For
sure
some reason,
you can
dude,
just let me see.
like I don't want to hear it because rules is written. This is the only one. Um,
Yeah, let me
I
see
love
real
it.
quick.
It
Magic items, holy
my favorite,
water.
you know what my favorite thing about it is
Hmm.
how much does holy water cost? Because it costs 25 gold worth of
Yeah,
silver to do any of these.
right, right.
Um, so I'm pretty sure that's not the only way to do it, but I think you need like more than
It's
one
really
person or
not.
something. That doesn't matter. Look, the it's a great spell. It's a
Yeah,
level one spell. You don't really
literally,
have a lot of great
literally.
ones
A
as a
cleric or
paladin.
paladin, at least in the legacy holy water flask, a cleric or paladin may create holy water by performing a special ritual. The ritual takes 1 hour
Yeah,
to
it's
perform,
called ceremony and
uses 25. It just says special ritual, so technically you don't
it
even.
uses 25 what?
It uses 25 gold worth of powdered silver and requires the
Hey,
caster to spend
hey,
a first level spell slot.
hey,
But
guess
it
what?
doesn't
That's
say it
ceremony.
has to be ceremony
Yeah,
though.
but it's there. But it
But
says it
you
right
don't
there.
actually have to use ceremony to do
Hey, can I
that.
tell you something funny though? If you use ceremony and cast as a ritual, you don't have to use the spell slot to make it, so it's better.
I mean,
Um,
now, because I don't think back in the
no,
day as a
ritual has always
paladin you
been
could.
ritual. Well, I don't know if you. Yeah, I don't know if you
Yeah.
could before, but
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, though, yeah.
eh,
Now you can't.
it's whatever, dude. I don't. I'm not worried about it. All I know is this is my favorite spell,
It's horrible. It's a
and
terrible spell, except for
I
that one
think
thing, which is amazing.
I think taking it as a paladin is great because you'll never use it until you need it.
You'll
Um,
never need it at all at any point. It'll
that's
only ever
so
be
not
like,
true. What about when you have people coming of age or they have to atone for their sins and change their alignment back to normal?
yeah,
What
that
if your friend gets hit with a beam that changes their alignment to evil?
oh,
Um,
from what? The god
a
of
demon or
balance
something.
and
There's multiple enemies that do that.
that
I
shoot
can't
beams that
I
change you
can't
from good to evil,
no,
Sam.
not beams, but like effects that change your alignment. I couldn't list any of them, but I know there's more than one.
Oh,
Um,
sure, sure. I believe most things that can only truly change your alignment of all things are items like the deck of many things,
no, there's
which
definitely a monster that does it. I don't.
maybe, sure, in this vast game of D&D, sure, there might be a monster that's able to actually influence your core concept of self and turn you into complete mirror like nega persona of yourself. Sure, maybe, but yeah, still, no one ever faces that type of shit, Sam.
You know, Adam, it doesn't sound like you're taking this very seriously.
I'm taking. I think I'm taking this far more seriously than you are. Actually, pretty sure because ceremony is a horrible spell, except for the one thing that it will say
It's a great
over and over
spell.
and over again.
What about when you have to? I'm just gonna become a funeral paladin. That's my
And you're
next
going to be
character.
destitute with absolutely zero
No, that's what I'm gonna do for my next character.
aspirations. Oh
My next
goodness!
character is gonna be an old man. He spent the last 40 years just doing funeral rites and making holy water.
And then the next person
Um,
is going to be a grave cleric and just be infinitely better at everything.
This wasn't necessary. Like I don't. I had like a really cool idea, and you're shooting it down.
Your cool idea, Sam,
Oh, dude, this
is
is
a
my cool idea.
grave
Is
cleric.
that
Your
he's
cool
well,
idea is a
no, no,
grave
no, no,
cleric.
no, no. And the thing is that he was in his youth. In his youth, he was like a strong
Oh.
man, but now he's lost
Mm.
that.
Oh, okay.
So then he gets a warlock hexblade pack to gain
Oh
his strength
boy.
back via his charisma. So
Boy.
he's a paladin who with warlock
With
hexblade
warlock,
and
so he's a warlock hexblade.
paladin multiclass.
Valid.
Yes.
Okay.
And whether or not that
Hmm.
makes him break his oath, we'll figure that out down the road.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
But
We
I
don't need
like
to
the
worry too
idea
much
that
about that.
even if his oath breaks the whole time, it's him just trying to keep a semblance of himself put together and try to do the right thing. And often he makes the wrong decisions. This is a great character. I like,
You know
again,
what
you're
would
really
make it
shitting on
even
my
better
really cool character.
is a grave cleric who's
No,
currently having a crisis of faith due to the fact he's experienced incredible loss
no,
in his life and is
you're missing like a huge bit of it,
having
and it's the
trouble
bit.
keeping his entire
No, no, no,
everything that he
no, no,
originally thought
no.
and believed to be true in regards to his God, in regards to the sanctity of life and balance. And you know, he's thinking that maybe this is all just a crock of shit and a charade, but slowly over time begins to realize that death is just a
Dude,
natural part of the world
you're
and
missing
the
the huge
balance and the
part where
cycle. That he's a
there's
hexblade
like
coffee
he's a
lot.
hex that
That
he
he's a hexblade paladin where you can do
yeah
divines and hex smites and have
yeah
nukes of epic proportions. Hmm.
yeah
Yes.
yeah
Yes. Well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm sure that that's not the primary
No,
motivation
but
behind
he's like
all
a
of
really
the
cool character that
unnecessary
you're really
preamble.
like putting down for some reason.
Anyway, we're moving on to the next story of the day,
His
everybody.
name's Jeffrey. I don't understand. Um. All right. Well, move on to the next one.
Name is Jeffrey.
Yeah. Um.
Jeffrey, the not grave paladin warlock
He's an
multi-class.
oath of the crown. He's an oath of the crown paladin.
Shut the fuck
Um.
up, Sam, and read the next story. Just shut the fuck up and read the next story. You
Well,
fuck.
obviously he breaks his oath.
Shut up and read the next
Anyway,
story. You better. Fucking
he
oath of the crown.
doesn't break
God.
his oath till he's max level. His the next story by Echo Bravo Papa. Great, that's awesome. GM banned my character mid encounter. This happened a few years ago and caused our D&D group at the time to disband. We had a group of 5 or 6 players. The 3 people involved in this were the GM, my now ex-wife, the party rogue, and myself. Our game was set in the later stages of 4th edition D&D. We would rotate who GM at the end of each campaign so everyone can get a turn playing as a PC, and it gave those who wanted to try their hand at being a GM an opportunity to do so.
I love that.
It
Oh, I
sucks that you're
like
playing
that.
4th edition, but I guess aside from that,
Yeah, I mean, again, I've never played it. I've heard various things, usually bad about fourth edition, but some people swear by it, you know.
sure.
You know, I don't,
Some
yeah.
people swear by getting coffee enemas. It doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Like, I don't.
Who the fuck, swears getting a coffee enema?
Everyone in California.
Yeah, we all know everyone in California.
We
Yes, this is
everyone
true.
they all do it and they eat sea
Yeah.
moss and stick coffee up their butt. We were
Yep.
using
Yeah.
the old
This
character
is a
builder,
little
which used to
thing.
be on the D&D website,
We are on
and
one
I,
today, y'all.
and I was able to build out a pixie werebear for a character, with the stipulation that when the
Ooh,
pixie transformed into a bear, it would do so at the same small size as the pixie.
100%.
Essentially,
It has to be.
yeah, it'd be awesome. Essentially transforming into a very small bear cub. The GM allowed it, and everyone else at the table thought it was a fun idea to basically have a transformation that was kind of pointless. During one of our trips into town, the rogue and I, did they spell it Rouge, or am I bad? I
No,
don't know.
yeah, yeah. They spelled Rouge.
Cool. It's Rogue,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's
You
rogue.
know I
Yes,
can't
yeah,
spell
yeah,
right.
yes. You got it correct, buddy. You got it correct. That is correct.
Got to talking about how we could make use of my transformation, and through a series of quite lucky dice rolls, we managed to convince the local general store owner to purchase a very friendly and obedient bear cub, which, as you can imagine, was my character. Then, when the shopkeeper
Nothing
was
wrong with
asleep,
this.
I would unlock the door to the shop, and the rogue could sneak in, loot the place, the GM choosing what we found and took, and we confirmed with the GM that this series of actions was okay. And while she was a bit annoyed, and she thought we had broken the system, she allowed it. We attempted to pull off this trick in several more towns we went to. Some succeeded, some didn't. At every turn, we confirmed with the GM, my now ex-wife, no, that we were allowed to do this, and every turn we were told it was okay if the dice rolls worked in our favor. Then, during the fateful encounter, we wandered into a large cave as the party had been tasked with finding some townsfolk who had gone missing. Instead, inside we found a large bear with several bear cubs, some dead, some alive. The bear
Yeesh.
began to attack the party, doing some serious damage. I believe the DM was fudging rolls to make it hit harder. My fucking ex-wife.
Mm.
I managed to hide and transform into a bear, and that wasn't in there, and used the scroll of speak with animals to
You
try and
always do
convince
shit
the
like
bear
that.
not to kill the party, and we only managed to find, and we only wanted to find what happened to the villagers. Jim said I had to roll a persuasion check with disadvantage because the bear was in a rage, and that I would need at least a 16 to even get it to stop attacking. I don't find that terrible. I did an open roll on the table and scored an 18
Yeah.
and then a 19. The GM was furious.
Mm-hmm.
My bitch of an ex-wife. No.
God damn it,
Um,
Sam.
she stood up, took my token off the board, and shouted at me that she had enough of my stupid fucking character ruining her campaign. That if I wanted to keep playing with the group, that I had to make a more serious character that wouldn't keep ruining her game. Ex-wives, am I right? Like this is
Jeez, shut
insane.
up. Keep reading already.
There was a very awkward silence. To break the tension, I said I can swap my character out for my backup character, Jeff, the standard half-elf ranger. His name's not Jeff.
But it's a
But
great
she
name.
said
And we're
that
officially calling him Jeff from now on.
that the only way I was going to play again with a new character would be at the start of the next session. And if I kept interrupting her, I would be kicked out of the house until after she had finished her game session. So I just sat there in silence as she proceeded to do a TPK on the remaining characters. That's why they're now ex-husband and wife. She got angry at me again, saying it was my fault the party had been wiped. No. And that we would need to start the whole campaign again from scratch. That was where the session ended, and all the other players left without really saying anything. The GM, remembering she was my bitch of a wife at the time, then proceeded to give me the silent treatment for quite a while. And one by one, all the other players put a message in the group chat saying they didn't want to play in this group anymore because of what had happened with my awful ex-wife. The GM I'm so sorry. This is also not in there. The GM tried to blame everyone in the room for not shutting down my character sooner, but was reminded that before we did anything, we always checked in with her if it was okay to do so. This also didn't impress her, and she ended up blocking half the people in the group chat. I didn't play D&D again until after we split up, and I got invited to a group that among its other members had a couple of players from that old group. The new group had been playing for 3 odd years now, so a happy ending to this story happened at least. This is why you don't play D&D with people you care. No, I'm just kidding.
This
I love this
so
because the beginning of
so
the story when it said my ex-wife,
yep.
it's like fuck yeah.
This shit is
Awesome.
wow.
I think
Yeah.
you're looking for awesome.
I'm a little bit stupefied, really. Stupefied is, that's a term that I'd use. This is stupefying. Like, holy shit. I
It's pretty
don't
cool, right?
I don't know what was
Pretty
going
neat,
on with
huh?
her. Like, if there was something else like out of game that she was kind of incorporating or
Well, yeah,
what. Like,
my soon-to-be ex-wife.
holy shit, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I love the silent treatment after. Obviously, we
The
have no
complete and utter denial of
denial of any
responsibility,
responsibility or
like in
accountability.
any way, like literally blaming anything and everyone else besides yourself. Like the whole shebang is here. And the fact, yeah, ex-wife of all things is
It's fucking
like,
awesome. Look,
wow.
I do want to. I'll put this out here. I obviously put a lot of my own words into this
Honestly, you should do it more. It was
because
beautifully
it was
done.
fun to me.
You ad-libbed so much of that beautifully, my
Yeah,
friend.
sorry.
Honestly.
It brings me back to that one story where I was like Pepe, for like most of the
Pepe.
story. Yeah, Pepe.
Pepe. Pepe.
But the reality is this is another case. We've talked about many stories like this. This was a funny one because it broke up a marriage. But it probably was already falling apart at that point. Uh, but
Yeah.
the intricacies of a relationship are often very similar to the intricacies of DMing a D&D game. Um, Nothing goes the way you think it's gonna go. and it's up to both the players and the DM to make the best of it. And it sounds like the players
Hey,
were
you
doing
know,
that, and the DM wasn't. Now, we obviously don't have the full story. This guy could be a dick too, but it sounds like they had a thing,
sounds
a
like they were
ruse.
reasonable. They communicated
They
it, you
had a
know.
plan, a ruse of sorts that they like to run, and albeit a very smart one at that. Um, that the DM was like, yeah, okay, sure. And at any point during that time, they could have voiced, "Hey, you guys do this to every town we go to.
Uh,
Can we maybe not? Or like, how about the towns you
or
go to don't have pet stores
that
anymore?
well, not just pet stores, because I mean, yeah, it's like it's literally just like, okay, you guys
Well,
are
like
selling a bear, like
America.
a bear cub to, again, yeah, we're talking about like pet
I mean,
stores, but it says
how long
local
does
general store owner. It's a general store.
how long does this go on before, the other towns you
Start
get
to
to the
send
store
out
and they're like, we don't
words.
deal in animals anymore.
Yeah.
Because
Or even
every other town has had these issues where every time someone comes into town, sells them a bear cub, and the next night they lose all of their shit. And then
but
they send a letter to one of their friends. They're like, dude, you wouldn't believe what just fucking happened to me. And
yeah.
then like the guy two towns over is like, when did this happen? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, two
Yeah,
weeks
it just happened to
ago.
me yesterday. Like, they're calling on
I
on
mean,
the sending stones,
yeah,
the
they
one
can
that's in the little booth in the
100%
middle of
be like a
town.
whole network of just like, hey, watch out for the little bear
Well,
bandits, you
hey,
know?
Adam,
Like
historically speaking, what are merchants known for?
communication, yeah,
Yes.
between each other,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But
Looking out
also,
for them
but
as the
again,
greater
here's
good.
also the biggest thing too, right? They clearly asked the GM, and the GM, look, a general store owner has almost zero reason to purchase a bear cub. Okay?
I mean,
You can maybe do it once because yeah, for the lulls, for the meme, it's funny. But the reality of it is like, a fucking party walks in, goes like, holds up a bear cub, like, hey, you want to buy a little bear? At a general store owner of all things, they're gonna look at it and be like, no, why the fuck would I want a bear? What am I gonna do with
now,
a little bear cub? What?
there's other people you could definitely sell that to.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
People who are too affluent for their own good.
Yeah, honestly, sounds like a noble. That
Um,
would at least be funnier, and they might even like deserve it more.
a gladiator ring,
Well,
underground
that might
fight
be less
club,
immediate
pet
payout.
store. No,
The
but
pet
these are
store, I mean,
but like these are other places where maybe they would take those things after you do the general store ruse because it doesn't make any sense. They let you get away with it because they were surprised by it,
yeah, like I
obviously.
said, the initial thing is it's a
But
funny little thing. So
the problem was your
yeah,
ex-wife
for
was
the
too much
memes,
of a
fuck it.
your ex-wife was too much of a doormat to say no.
And
So
then that built up, and then she exploded, and then
yeah,
couldn't, and then she was embarrassed and humiliated by the whole thing, and then she couldn't just take the L for the fact
yeah,
that she was being an absolute asshole about it. Like you
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah, 100%, 100%. It starts, it's just how things work. It's
because she
unfortunate,
didn't
but
she didn't want
it's
to ruin it because everybody was in on it. Everybody was like having super fun with it. It was great, but she was feeling like, maybe you weren't taking it seriously, or she was feeling disrespected or
for
whatever.
whatever reason. Like
For whatever reason, there's plenty of things.
there's so many
And the
possibilities.
thing is like, yeah, she should have said no at least to the second time. The first time, yeah, why the hell not? It's funny as fuck. It is. It's
I'd even give you the
hilarious.
third time as the first time saying no because like you let them get away with it the second time because you're like, oh, you rascals.
Yeah, you're trying it again. All right. I mean,
It's
maybe,
like
maybe.
it's
You
funny.
might give them two, maybe. But the first time for sure, it's funny and hilarious. You gave it a shot. You succeeded. That's great. The second time, debatable. But either way, yeah, this is clearly an absolute L on the absolute bitch of an ex-wife GM's
Thank you.
part.
Thank you.
We say that, but again, it despite it being yes and L on the wife's part, it's understandable. Like again,
Oh,
she
I've
felt
corrupted you.
humiliated and embarrassed and frustrated. Because we get it, like whenever you play a game and like there are certain people, I think me and Sam included, that we like to take the game a little bit more seriously at times. We definitely love to leave room for plenty of
It's
gags and jokes.
what a humble brag.
But we enjoy. It's not even a brag. It's just I'm just saying like
That's
there are
total.
there's a group of people like, there are people that like to take the game a little bit more serious, get into immersion. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, me and my party that I'm with, like we're playing later tonight, but we make jokes all the fucking time. Again, sometimes it gets a little annoying even at times because we're all, me included, are all just like we use up so much time just fucking on bits and gags and shit instead of actually like, going through with the plan and the story and everything. But that being the case, it definitely, I do also understand that it can sometimes get annoying where it's like, yo, I'm trying to do something, especially if you're the GM. You're like, yo, I'm trying to like create a narrative. I'm trying to establish like some stakes. I'm trying to get some like emotional reactions and like depth. And your players are just sitting there, shoving magic wands up their asses in order to sneak them out of a magic shot. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah, where else
like
am I supposed to put it?
it's nature's pocket, I'll have you know.
It's my prison pouch, Adam, and I need that.
Yeah, we absolutely need a wand of wonder shoved up your prison pouch. Even
I
though
was
you're
thinking of
not.
I was thinking of an immovable rod, but finders keepers, choosers weepers.
Is it activated, Sammy? Are we saying is it an activated movable rod? Because that seems to defeat the whole purpose of of
How
of.
seasoned is my prostate?
Mm. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna move on to the next
We were
story.
demonetized a while ago. It's fine.
Hey, you can't be something. You can't be D something if you never were.
We do this for the love of the
We do
game.
it for the love of the game, bro. The straight love of the game. Hey, remember to subscribe and comment and like the video down below as well. Hey, for the game. Let's move on. I think this might be the last one we got for you today. This one is titled Invited to a Game Because the GM Needed Someone to Make an Example of. This is back about 8 years ago in my D&D 3.5 days. Ooh. A GM and mod from one of my Discord servers, let's call her Sam, reached out to me because they needed a player to balance out the party. I was told in no uncertain terms that this was a high optimization game to go ham with the weird and have some fun. So I did. I made a Bloodstorm Blade. That sounds pretty badass. Wielding an exploding caber. I'm not sure what that is. Fun, but not too high damage. However, it uses a real neat shenanigan as its core mechanic.
It's a
Now,
caper. It's either a sword or a gun. I can't
that's what I
remember.
would assume. Yeah, maybe it's like both. Like now, before we go any further, it is important to note that during every step of the character generation process, I was in contact with Zam. I explained in vivid detail how the combo works. I used Bloodstorm Blade's ability to hit every viable target plus Caber, targeting squares instead of enemies to hit in a wide AoE. Zam said it was a hilarious idea. And in the character sheet sent to her, I had every single ability set up as a hyperlink to the SRD or D&D tools page for the section in question. We made damn sure before the game everything was perfect. Now, the night before session, quoth Zam herself, yeah, this is fine. You're a little undertuned compared to some of the others, but it'll be fine for what I need. Well, I guess that right there was the big red flag. Cut to the day of the game. Everything is going good. We get to first combat. Cool. The wizard goes first and obliterates half the field, as you do as the wizard in 3.5. I managed to get second on the initiative order and announced my attack, doing a cool 8d6 damage to a single target. And it was at that point, Zam fucking explodes. How the bleep dare you bring this broken bleep to my table, kobold? This, needless to say, came as quite the shock, as we had worked together to build the character. So I try to communicate as such. You gaslight me at my own table? You're lucky I don't ban you from the bleeping server. And with that, I am posthumously kicked from the game, given a year-long ban from joining any other game on the server, and told via direct messages that if I so much as think about reaching out to the other mods about this, it would end very poorly for me. Later, I found out from another individual in the game that shortly after I was kicked, everyone else was given an ultimatum. Fix your characters or you're next. And that I was constantly being used as an example of a bad player. Now, I did try to reach out to the other mods, was told that Zam is a wonderful person who would never do such a thing, and that insinuating otherwise would absolutely not be tolerated. TLDR, did exactly what the GM asked me to do, only discovered that it was a trap all along to manipulate our other players into changing while getting a free excuse to vent anger at someone. End post. Now, before we go into our dissection of this whole scenario, we do have a couple of comments down below to help maybe further give some more credence to the whole scenario. One commenter goes, "Yo, screenshots, my guy. Screenshot full conversations before she can think to edit them because that takes time and effort she cannot afford while in session. It's all moot now, of course, but this is for the next person going through this. Back up your claims with screenshots." With screenshots. If you've created a character in VC with someone, ask a specific question in chat to verify your call and screenshot that. Worst case, you didn't need it and delete the screenshot a few weeks later. OP responds with, "I tried. Sam removed the screenshots that I posted, accused me of editing them to gaslight the group, and, well, you know the rest. That's the thing with clicks. Evidence and reality don't really matter. All that matters is Sam got her way without any of the people that actually mattered being hurt." Dude responds again, says, "Direct message mods first then. Posting public is braising up a stink and you shouldn't lead with that. Also, that's exactly the outcome expected. Of course she'd leave at everything. She's narcissistic, not stupid. The other mods never even saw your pics, so why would they believe you? That's why you approach them in a private message to make sure they see the pics without being influenced from Zam or other mods. Again, you were a whole lot younger back then. I don't blame you for being overwhelmed and panicking. I have no idea how I'd react, and I'm close to 40. OP responds again. I did, in fact, send said screenshots via DM to the other mods. Those were the only places sent. In the game chat when trying to defend myself, then via DM to Dipper and Bones. My screenshots didn't matter one whit because Zam would never do that. In the eyes of the mod team is always right. Another person says, comment, "Sounds like corruption to me." And then the original poster says, "Okay, I didn't get that from your post. Good job trying to be thorough. You deserve better. Even if you hadn't done all those things, you still deserve better. What a complete mess." Yeah, so right off the bat, what do you think of this whole thing, Sammy?
Well, I stay true to my hard and fast rule of I don't interact with internet losers. Um, I don't like look,
It's a good motto to have, honestly. It's good
look,
creed. It's good creed.
even if I lose, say I lost my D&D groups and stuff like that, the amount of just yearning and sadness I would have to feel to try to meet a new group of people online and play D&D as opposed to just playing with people I already know. There's no reason for me to do it. I have no inkling of interest in it. I understand you've gone through the fucking gauntlet, but I just have no desire at all um to deal with any of these people. And it's not because I think that every one of them is bad or whatever. That's not the case. But the reality is like it's not worth my time. Um it's insane. It's insanity. I Just reading the stories that we read is enough to be like, yeah, I'm good. Like,
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, bud. Yeah, like this particular thing right here is now we said before that we had a spread of stories today that isn't really like the most insane crazy kind of stuff. I will say that this might be a bit of the outlier. Like this story here is pretty crazy. Having this is essentially almost comparative to like cultish type of behavior, right? Where you just have a person who, for whatever reason, seems infallible despite clear evidence to the contrary. Hell, we even have another smaller little snippet story here from OP about another incident with the same individual. I have been given permission to share the Haringan incident by its victim, my buddy D. This is another player who got invited to a 5e game Zam was running. They wanted to play a Haringan rogue, pretty reasonable combo, right? The day before the game, Zam messages them to say that D should play a human or an elf instead because she thinks D won't like playing a Haringan. D replies that, nah, it's fine. They're okay with being a little less optimized for the fun flavor, which I don't really see how they'd be less optimized with a Haringan as a rogue. That seems like a pretty powerful combo, actually. Campaign starts. D moves their character a single time and dies on the spot from fall damage. Because Haringans have an increase to their jumping strength, but no resistance to falling. So you take 10d6 fall damage. Deal with it. D being much smarter than me about situations like this, decides to simply bow out of the campaign and the server entirely, rather than attempt to put up with Zam's bullpucky. Funny thing is, this also led Dee and their family to starting up their own D&D Discord, inviting me and having an absolutely wonderful time. We've done Fathomless Gears, we've done 5e, and now we're doing Pathfinder 2e Kingmaker on weekends. Good for you,
Nice.
OP. We are very happy to hear that. But that in question right there shows that this person, this GM, Zam, is exceedingly vindictive, tyrannical, petty, and just all right down. Like we were talking about the ex-wife in the previous post. She is an absolute asshat of epic proportions. Okay. Like this is, yeah, this is problematic, and they're allowed to get away with it because they've clearly, for whatever reason, indoctrinated a certain group of people to allow them to kind of do whatever the hell that they want to do. Um, and that is unfortunate, you know. If anything, I feel like this is a really good cautionary tale about, you know, the dangers of perception, right? And the dangers of, like, you know, because OP literally sent screenshots of things and everything, and the people, the other mods, are just like, no, she'd never do something like that. That's ridiculous. Even though, you know, they have literal screenshots to as evidence, right? You have actual literal evidence to present to the contrary, and yet people will often still choose to believe whatever narrative, whatever fabrication or delusion that they find is most convenient. You know, and hell, for all we know, those other mods, they know exactly what Zam is like, and they don't care because maybe she's got something over on them. Maybe they've worked out some other kind of deal or thing. Apparently, from another comment down below, OP even says that, like, apparently if you're in the clique, they're actually an absolutely fantastic GM that pulls out all the stops. Just, you know, you have to be in the clique. And if you're not, then, you know, you just kind of get shat all over and utilized as cautionary tales or whatever to as an example for the rest, I guess. And that's, yeah, that's unfortunate. Um it is, and again, this kind of dynamic, this is unfortunately not a rare one. You know what I mean? And not just, and it's not a rare one I'm talking about just in TTRPGs. It's not a rare one in just life, society, government, you know, friendships, whatever. Like, just it's this kind of mentality is exceedingly toxic and fucked up. And yet it's not uncommon. Um it's just easier to kind of recognize here, obviously, because it's about something as, you know, unimportant or not nearly as weighty as, you know, a fucking imaginary game of wizards, spells, elves, and dwarves and orcs and whatever, you know, like. But the source issue and mentality is the same, and it is always problematic and destructive and toxic no matter what. So I would utilize this story, Acolytes, Apprentices, as a means, a legitimately, as all these stories are, but this one maybe even more so than any other that we've read. Maybe not any other, but you get the point. As a means of, you know, reference and looking inward, being introspective and self-analytical about, like, hey, don't be so caught up and stuck on a certain idea or concept or feeling or thing that you want to believe, right? You should always be open to the truth, to the reality of a situation, because that's the only way that, if a situation truly is bad and toxic, it's the only way that any of us have any chance of ever making things better, right? Of growing, of healing, of fixing what is broken and screwed up. You have to be able to first be open to seeing and acknowledging the shit to then clean it up. Uh, Anything else you got on this one, Sammy boy?
No.
All right. Then I think with that, that's what we've got for you today, everybody. Thanks just so much for tagging along with us, Sammy. You want to go ahead and take us out?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reiterate thank you for hanging out with us, continuing to tune in for Just me absolutely butchering multiple stories for fun. Um,
Hey, butchering or improving? That's, it's
it's
all.
it's an in between situation.
You say butchering, I
Um,
say yeah, absolutely killing it.
Nevertheless, we appreciate it. If you have any comments to leave, feel free to do so. If you enjoy what we do here, don't hesitate to like or subscribe. Um, we just kind of we do this for fun, but also it's something that we do have a passion in and enjoy spending time to do so in between our busy schedules. So
Yeah,
if we
hey,
can, if we can make it something into a priority, that'd be awesome for us.
yeah, we'd love to start, sinking some more finance and some more resources into improving, our quality and stuff if we can, So obviously any support you can offer is incredibly appreciated.
But thank you for delving into another episode of the Cautionary Chronicles with us. Um, dusting off the books in the archive and kind of getting into the gritty of it. But as always, thank you. We'll see you again soon, and have a good one.
Thank you all when we dive back down to the archive. Peace.
See y'all.
Jeffrey the fucking pelt.
He's the best character. I don't know.